The recent relocation of Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor Marsh Farm in Norfolk marks a significant chapter in his personal circumstances, following an extended period of public scrutiny regarding his living arrangements. Reports suggest the area surrounding his new residence is characterized by a strong scent of wet mud, with one journalist describing the setting as eerie, bleak, and strangely lifeless, a stark contrast to the grand surroundings of his former home at Royal Lodge. Furthermore, accounts continue to highlight issues with pest problems around the property, adding what has been depicted as a notable downgrade in his residential situation. The housing saga concerning Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor has unfolded over several months. His tenure at Royal Lodge in Windsor, where he had resided since 2003, concluded under considerable pressure. Various reports circulated detailing disputes over security provisions, financial contributions, and property maintenance, alongside questions regarding the suitability of such a substantial royal residence for an individual no longer performing official public duties. Subsequently, attention shifted Marsh Farm, a smaller property on the Sandringham estate in Norfolk, designated as his new permanent home. The transition Marsh Farm was reportedly not without complications. Initially, Andrew was said to be temporarily staying at Wood Farm, another property within the Sandringham estate, known royal observers as the residence where Prince Philip spent a significant part of his retirement, affording it a reputation for privacy and comfort. Marsh Farm, however, appears to have elicited a distinctly different reception. Reports indicated that extensive renovations were required before Andrew could move in permanently, leading weeks of delays that consistently generated media headlines. These developments fueled public speculation regarding his alleged reluctance to depart, potential delays on his part, or the readiness of the property, contributing what was widely perceived as another public embarrassment. The residential transition reportedly culminated on Easter Monday, when Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor spent his first night at Marsh Farm. This event, according to accounts, transpired without any grand arrival, official photographs, or cheerful family welcome, adding a narrative described as increasingly uncomfortable. Andrew has reportedly expressed considerable dissatisfaction with the state of the property, specifically mentioning a reported rat problem and a pervasive, unpleasant odour. A journalist visiting the area near Waltham described the access road leading the estate as gloomy and isolated, noting the absence of typical village amenities such as bustling shops, a charming local atmosphere, or a general sense of warmth, observing instead a neglected appearance of the garden and being particularly surprised by the strong smell of wet mud. The distinctive environmental characteristics of Marsh Farm, particularly the strong scent of wet mud with occasional wafts of manure, were highlighted by a journalist as one of the first memorable details, contributing an atmosphere perceived as eerie, bleak, and strangely lifeless. While rural areas naturally possess earthy, damp, and agricultural odours influenced by weather, fields, drainage, marshland, livestock, and standing water, the prominent reporting of this specific aroma underscores a significant deviation from typical expectations associated with a royal dwelling. This stands in stark contrast to Royal Lodge, which was a sprawling residence synonymous with grandeur, elevated status, and privilege. Marsh Farm, by comparison, has been characterized more akin to the red brick home of a prosperous middle-class individual, a respectable dwelling, but one that notably diverges from the image previously attached a prominent royal figure. This stark difference in descriptions serves to emphasize the dramatic shift in Andrew's public position and perceived circumstances. Despite the change in residence, practical concerns regarding security reportedly remain. Claims emerged suggesting that new security systems were installed prior Andrew's arrival at Marsh Farm, indicating that even in his altered public standing, requirements for protection and privacy persist. However, one report also observed a perceived lack of privacy around the home itself, adding an element of irony to the situation. An individual who has reportedly spent years contending with intense public scrutiny now finds himself in a dwelling that some suggest is more readily observable, further highlighting the complexities of his current living arrangements. The reported pest issues have also drawn considerable media attention, with some tabloid reports referring Marsh Farm as a swamp home and alleging a significant rat problem in the area. While it is acknowledged that many rural properties across Britain commonly encounter various wildlife, including rats, mice, foxes and moles, particularly in older buildings, farmland and damp environments, the context surrounding Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor's move elevates these ordinary inconveniences a more dramatic level. His reported personality, which has not been characterized as particularly easygoing or humble, suggests these issues are likely cause him considerable distress. Furthermore, reports have indicated that friends and family have expressed concerns regarding his mental state, with the new home's perceived shortcomings potentially exacerbating these concerns. These narratives contribute a broader perception of social exile, portraying him not as a central royal figure of influence and prestige, but rather as a sidelined relative situated in Norfolk, while the active monarchy continues its functions without his direct involvement. The evolving family dynamics surrounding Andrew's relocation have also been a subject of interpretation. Reports claimed that Prince Edward visited Marsh Farm for what was described as a quiet word before Easter. Other media outlets adopted more pointed language, characterizing Edward as a royal henchman, dispatched resolve matters. Regardless of the precise interpretation, these accounts illustrate how external observers perceive the internal workings of the royal family. Andrew, who once occupied a senior and influential position, is now frequently depicted as a brother whose affairs require management, signaling a notable shift in his hierarchical standing within the family structure. This transformation from a figure routinely engaged in overseas trade missions and prominent ceremonies, enjoying the extensive privileges of royal life, one whose residential circumstances and perceived discontent dominate headlines, represents a significant decline in public standing. The current focus on whether Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor's new residence smells unpleasant, or if he was nudged in unpacking his belongings, starkly contrasts with his previous public image. Supporters argue that he retains a right, a private life and a home free from constant judgment, asserting that all families encounter difficulties and that properties can have flaws, suggesting that not all media coverage needs be critical. Conversely, critics maintained that many of his current circumstances are self-created, and public sympathy remains limited due to ongoing controversies associated with him, particularly his links to Jeffrey Epstein, allegations he has consistently denied. Marsh Farm, once utilised by royals travelling Sandringham, now stands as a symbol of a bygone era, its current occupant reflecting a considerable shift in royal fortunes. The trajectory of Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor's residential arrangements and the public discourse surrounding his move, Marsh Farm, encapsulate a profound alteration in his life and public perception. From the grandeur of Royal Lodge, a Norfolk property described as bleak, muddy and plagued by pests, this chapter represents an unexpected turn for a former senior royal. The continuing narrative, whether it focuses on repairs, neighbours, viziers, or further family tensions, suggests that periods of silence regarding his situation are often brief. The current image presented is one of a figure removed from his former central role, settling in a home that for many observers perfectly reflects the extent of his diminished standing, marking a unique and unforeseen development in contemporary royal chronicles.